Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the important developments of the day, which of course is coming now after the arrest of the former Prime Minister and PTI Chairman Imran Khan. And this of course is something that happened yesterday, and since then we've been hearing a lot of controversy and a lot of protests on the streets, which have escalated to violence now, resulting in the damaging of many important buildings, including those of state institutions, and of course a lot of them being burned down alive. And this is important in terms of what is happening and the sort of situation that is being created. There is of course a lot of importance that is being given to these circumstances by the political setup and the military institutions as well, including the Prime Minister and the ISPR, which have reiterated and warned the miscreants and perpetrators of terror that they need to shun their nefarious designs and they need to stop acting like that. And because of such actions that have happened as a result of the arrest of the PTI chairman, there is going to be strict action taken against anybody who tries to go beyond the law, something that the Prime Minister also reiterated, and the ISPR has also spoken with regards to the actions that have been taken in response to the arrest of the PTI chairman by its leaders and workers in terms of what has happened to the street and the damages that have been caused. And we also know that even a school building has been targeted, and this is of course something which is indeed unfortunate and highly condemnable. It's important also to take a look at all of these happenings in terms of what is going on in the legal cases surrounding this particular arrest as well. We know that the National Accountability Bureau has proceeded with the accountability court, and the hearing was conducted today with the PTI chairman also being present in the courts. And after that, we know that an 8-day physical remand has been granted to the National Accountability Bureau in line with this particular case, which they are claiming may also be extended even further to 14 days. Whether or not we're going to be seeing that happen, of course, remains a question mark. But for now, we know that the Islamabad High Court, of course, has declared the arrest legal in line with the legal procedures, and has also granted an 8-day physical remand to the PTI chairman and former Prime Minister. And it's important in terms of the reactions that we've been seeing coming in from the party leaders as well. We also know that the PTI leader, Mr. Asad Umar, has also been arrested following the arrest of the PTI chairman with regards to the kind of reactions that the PTI workers have conducted and the damage that they have caused to public property. We also know that unfortunately 4 people have lost their lives and many others have been injured. In a cabinet meeting today, the army has also been called to take control of the situation in the different areas of the country, since of course there is a lot of threat to the life and property of the citizens of Pakistan. And it's indeed unfortunate that this is the scenario that's going on. But the ISPR has made it clear that anybody who's going to be conducting any such action is warned of the kind of response and consequence that they're going to be getting in, and this is not something that's going to be tolerated, and that the army had shown a lot of patience with regards to what has happened so far, but they will no longer do that. We're going to be taking a look at all of this and what it means in terms of the legal proceedings of the case with the PTI chairman, who also speaking in court have hinted towards a plan to kill him as well, with regards to what he has referred to in terms of what has happened before. Whether or not, of course, that is true, we've been seeing coming in a lot of statements without any sort of evidence in the past as well. But again, the way that this particular case actually proceeds further is important to understand how it's going to impact not only this current dynamic of the country, but how it's going to set precedents in the future as well. For this and more, as always, we've been joined in the studios by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi. We've also been joined online by Mr. Muhammad Muneeb Qadir, who's a legal expert. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Let me start with you, Farrukh. Yesterday, of course, we were talking about the arrest of the PTI chairman, and today we've seen that not only did the Islamabad High Court declare it legal, but also that an 8-day physical remand has been granted to NAB. And it's important to understand that in terms of the kind of reactions and the statements that have been coming in from the PTI side, which points towards malicious intent, which point towards the current political setup and also the military establishment to be behind this arrest, and they're of course creating the connections again without evidence. What do you think in terms of what has happened today and what the court has proceeded with points towards, and whether or not the PTI's narrative of blaming military institutions or the current political setup has any weightage?
Right, Sana. I'm going to address the political strategy of PTI, and I'm going to talk about the kind of violence that actually has been going on since yesterday. I hope that Muneeb can shed more light on the legalities of the matter, but I will also try to address some of that as well. Let me begin by actually focusing on the ISPR's press release today that you have pointed out. I'm grateful that in this country we have this habit of, not, addressing the matter directly. Usually there are, oblique references, but this press release actually makes no bones about who the culprits are, what exactly were their designs, especially given where they tell you that they have shown restraint. They also point to the attempt to cause a civil war in the country. So this is how things were supposed to go. At least those who were planning it were, planning it this way: attack military installations, provoke people, the army there, and whenever there's going to be any counterattack, and people die, then create stir and kind of momentum which causes civil war. So it is not a small accusation, Sana. And we have seen the kind of military installations, the kind of residences, the kind of offices which were torched or attacked. That actually speaks for itself. That proves what exactly went on. Now, thanks to the army's wisdom, they ensured that all these people were not confronted. And while they attacked these places, I mean, the first thing that you see is that there wasn't any resistance. Why? Because when you have brought a mob which is actually, fully prepared to kill or die, then, it is like walking into a trap. So because of that restraint, I think that we have reached today where the ISPR can actually declare that any more aggravation, any more escalation will be dealt with iron hands. And I think that is very important to understand, because yesterday Asad Umar was doing whatever PTI does best. On one side actually set fire and then say, oh, we have nothing to do with this fire. Somebody else was doing it in our name. But then one by one we started hearing the audio leaks coming from various quarters associated with PTI, and now we know that all major actors were playing a part in that. So what does this mean? These people are absolutist. They wanted to install their own political order at whatever cost possible, right? When that kind of a situation arises, Sana, there has to be a state response. And I think that we are moving in that direction. Already people are being arraigned. But this conspiracy theory and this, while actually you attack also and then say that we respect, and this hypocrisy was also pointed out by ISPR, that you say that we are with the state institutions, on the other side you attack them also. That has been exposed. Now the state is going to take care of these matters, but all these people who kept on inhaling their own propaganda that they can cause a civil war or overthrow the national order and impose themselves through any other means, I think they will be disappointed today.
All right. Mr. Muneeb, the situation, of course, with regards to the way that the PTI workers and leaders have reacted is important. And this is something, again, that the Prime Minister and the ISPR has also warned about. And it's important to understand in terms of the legal actions that can be taken. We've seen in the past that perhaps whenever there is any sort of mob violence, a lot of accountability or consequence is not there. But what is being said from the ISPR is that the miscreants have been identified and they will be dealt with serious consequence. What can possibly be that consequence, and how far can this blame actually go in terms of not just the worker who's committed the crime, but also in terms of the party's responsibility in this?
So it's extremely unfortunate to be seeing the kind of chaos which has been created all across the country. I mean, it's shameful that, everyday life has come to a standstill. Education institutes have been closed down. And, the kind of violence that has been unleashed by PTI supporters, be it in GHQ building or the residence of the corps commander or schools, even education institutes have not been spared from these acts of criminal damage to public property and arson, and also waging a war against the state. That is really serious. Section 121 of the PPC does talk about the fact that waging a war against the state is a very serious offense, attracting the severest of penalties. Now, the question turns on whether the PTI party leadership is complicit in these acts of violence against the state, or is it only the protesters are lone actors? It's very much clear, as Mr. Pitafi also pointed out, that there have been audio leaks, as well as the fact that no one from within the PTI leadership condemned these acts of violence perpetrated by PTI supporters and PTI collectively. I was just listening to Mr. Shah when he was asked whether he would condemn what has happened, in Lahore at the corps commander's private residence, or acts of violence taking place at GHQ and other public property. He flat out refused to condemn any of these acts. So you should know where it's coming from. It's very much at the behest of the PTI party political leadership. It's the audio leaks clearly suggest that who is it that is orchestrating these acts of violence, and these are very serious crimes. You cannot hold the whole country to the wings of one man's ego. You cannot hold the country hostage to one man's ego or one man's whim, and it's very unfortunate. Has it never happened in the past? I mean, have political leaders from other parties never been to prison? Any of the mainstream parties, the parties which are in government currently, be that People's Party or PML-N, their leaders have been even persecuted politically. And, they've been politically victimized in the past, let alone being imprisoned and sent to jail on very tough sentences. But never did I see their followers being able to challenge the writ of the state to to put the whole state and to put the whole nation hostage to their whims. I've never seen that. This is unprecedented. You can, like, the ISPR in the press release have said that not even the enemies of the state have ever been able to achieve this so-called feat. What are these people up to? So this is the most serious of its kind. Yes, it's oft cited Article 6 of the Constitution, but there are also individual crimes pertaining to criminal damage of public property, arson, like I just said, waging war against the state, doing propaganda. So I think that the ISPR's press release today needs to be taken very seriously. And also, we should keep in mind that the allegations against Mr. Khan, the basis upon which NAB has arrested him yesterday, they are very serious of the kind. And it's not as if it's been said in the air. There's very concrete evidence to the effect. And it's exactly that evidence that needs to be looked into. And it's exactly those allegations which need to be addressed by Mr. Khan and by PTI itself. That if you have deprived the national exchequer, if you've deprived this nation, which is already debt ridden, of 60 billion of the rupees for your own private gains, I think that's a very serious offense and violation of the oath that you've taken, that you had taken, and you have to be held answerable for whatever you did. So why are we not talking? I mean, by we, I mean, why are PTI supporters, why are PTI leaders not talking about that? That your leader has been accused of depriving the national treasury of 60 billion rupees for their own private interests, for sharing the riches amongst themselves, for sharing the proceeds of the money which was recovered from the UK NCA among themselves. I'm sorry, but there has to be accountability. Was that not supposed to be the main raison d'etre of Mr. Khan's politics? He always used to say accountability for all. So why shy away now? This is a lawful arrest made under an arrest warrant. And I think that Mr. Khan should be thanking his lucky stars that the law had been amended pertaining to, NAB. That earlier it was a 90-day remand. Now the maximum that you can be remanded in custody is 14 days. So, I mean, it's fair enough that you have been remanded unless you come up with convincing answers and you can prove yourself to be innocent for 8 days. I mean,
Right.
putting the whole
Right.
country at a standstill for that lawful reason, it beggars
Right,
belief.
absolutely. And I understand, and I'm glad glad you pointed out the scenario with regards to the PTI slogan itself of accountability for all. And that's important in terms of what we're going to be discussing regarding the case pertaining to the PTI chairman as well. And Farrukh, when we take a look at the situation, and yesterday what you said also is that perhaps the entire scenario with regards to how the situation is happening or how the arrest took place is perhaps taking us away from the actual situation or the actual case and how it needs to be dealt with. And today also, of course, the 8-day physical remand that has been given to the PTI chairman is being misconstrued perhaps, or being taken in a completely different manner in terms of an opportunity to be used to torture the PTI chairman or for any harm to be inflicted upon him. With regards to what is happening and the possibility of any such incident to happen, do you think that is it just the PTI workers who are not paying attention to the actual substance, or the public at large or even the media personnel are not really focusing on what the hearing is all about?
Right, Sana. First of all, this thing about him being tortured, I don't think that Imran Khan will be tortured. He wasn't tortured earlier either. Just to remind everybody, anybody, including you or I or anybody big even, right? Had they been doing whatever they were doing for past 1.5 years, they would have started facing the music or especially facing the law much earlier. But it took Imran Khan Sahab more than 1 year to at least go in custody of the authorities, right? So there's already a lot of caution that has been there, right? And I don't think that he's going to be tortured. I think he's lucky because I was around when NAB was created, right? I remember the first DG who was there interviewing him, and he said that this window of 90 days, at that time they had the capacity to arrest anybody, picks anybody up for 90 days, and there was no recourse, right? After that, gradually, this alliance, this coalition that is ruling the country has gradually been, dismantling it, but it still is there. The 14-day, is now the maximum limit of a remand. And in that remand also, of course, they use all psychological tactics that are needed to get the facts out. And that happened with the previous prime ministers as well, we know that, and even an ex-president. But apart from that, I don't think that there is going to be any torture. This propaganda, just to remind everybody that while Imran Khan Sahab is enjoying the laxity accorded by the recent amendments into NAP ordinance, at that time, his own petition is pending before Supreme Court, challenging the very ordinance, right? Now, I wanted to also talk about the way it is shaping up. I think that this is a very serious case, Sana, and it is going to actually lead to exposing many people who have been actually playing fast and loose with the country and its law. Unfortunately, it seems that there are people in this country. Remember, yesterday, Pakistan's state institutions were being attacked. Yesterday, a former prime minister was arrested, right? But today, there is a property tycoon. Whenever his name was mentioned, those channels, the private channels that were actually airing the content, would mute the speaker, right? This is the kind of, this is the state of play. Similarly, Saqib Nisar Sahab, the way he accepted the whole deal without any question also raises a lot of red flags. So this case is going to be very serious, and I think that whosoever told Imran Khan Sahab not to seek defense or not to actually present himself or become part of investigation early on, they were his worst enemies, because the things have complicated further. Now, let me also talk about the army, and I don't hold any brief for any institution. I have always been accorded disproportionate respect by those institutions and audience. It is because of their greatness, has hardly anything to do with myself. But honestly, Just tell me, had it happened in any other country, Sarah, and this was continuing to happen, and you would have known, particularly yesterday's attack on, Qadi House in Lahore, the way it happened, Sarah, it actually tells you two or three things which are very important. Number one, it was the go-to place, and now we know, thanks to the audios that have been leaked, that they had plans to go there. But the plan was so old that the matter must have leaked to the authorities, and in time they had done preventive or taken the precautionary measures as well. So if that is the case, if the plan was actually to bring the country into the darkness of the civil war, how do you think the country should be treating all these people, right? Right now the army is fighting terrorists, the army is fighting on the borders as well. It still is under a lot of attack because of terrorists and all. And at that time, going about such kind of plans is really, really sad. And perhaps these people are so blinded that they don't even understand what army they are talking about. This is a battle-hardened army which has actually fought terrorists on its own soil. And by doing that, they get all these strategies that have to be in place, and the understanding of fourth generation warfare, fifth generation warfare, then hybrid warfare, right? All this, the whole shebang. And they know how this game is being played. So these people have just actually taken the rope that was offered and hung themselves. Now, do you call it any kind of politics? This is what is called insurgency or terrorism.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Muneeb, I want to also talk a little bit about the extent to which this has gone to, because, of course, in previous times also Pakistan has dealt with a lot of issues within the country from, of course, a lot of other miscreants. And as you pointed out earlier as well, the ISPR has also spoken about the kind of political cloak that has been there, and that this is not a way that the enemies of Pakistan have also behaved in the past 75 years. And we've also seen that a school in Malakand has been targeted, and it's important in terms of the extent that this points towards in terms of what is happening and the kind of limits that have been crossed. And it's completely unfortunate that the school of young children was targeted and the building was burned down and the property was damaged. And we also, of course, heard the school children speaking to media as well, talking about what has been done to their schools. And it's important in terms of the scenario that we see and the lines that can be crossed. When we talk about this particular incident and then what it represents, how is it that when we move forward with the institutions or the political setup, that they will be able to move away from this and not be able to proceed in a manner that this particular taint is not on the party anymore?
See, again, this is an extremely dire, serious situation, and we cannot be taking it lying down. This is, I mean, we cannot afford to be silent spectators to this. I mean, a political party, as the ISPR has said today, creating a civil war situation under the garb of civilian party politics, that's not on. Because when non-state actors start challenging the writ of the state, start challenging, the right of the state of having monopoly over violence, and, they are armed protesters, they storm into public properties, into the GHQ. I'm sorry, but in any civilized society, we designate them as proscribed organizations. They are not good. They are not conducive for the public good. And I don't think that we can turn a blind eye to this. Yes, the army has shown, our military has shown extreme restraint. I mean, the way that the protesters were behaving yesterday, I just know from personal experience that I was out running my errands, and I was trapped on the roads. Here in Lahore, I was trapped. The protesters had taken the city under siege. And how horrible is it that, when people fear for their lives and for the safety and the security while stepping out? So what kind of a situation have these people created in cities all across the country? They keep on saying that Imran Khan is our red line. So you should know whom their loyalties are towards. Their loyalties are for Imran Khan. Whereas I believe that any law-abiding citizen would be loyal to their country. Your country ought to be your red line, not a particular political figure. Yes, you have a right to peaceful assembly. Absolutely. You have a right to protest. You even have a right to have a free and open conversation about about your government, about institutions within the country, but within reasonable confines, not in such a way so as to, threaten the unity and the cohesion of
Right,
the state and of
absolutely.
the
But
nation.
Mr. Muneeb, what Farrukh was saying, especially in terms of the military institutions, the kind of
Yes,
sacrifices that they have played and the kind of wars they're still fighting for the security of the
yes.
motherland and its people, do you think that that perhaps is now disregarded at a level which is inherent to the PTI supporters and workers who've sort of taken and ingrained themselves with this belief that there's something that's going on against their political party, or that the institution is out to get them?
Yes, I think that it's all about narrative shaping. So the way that PTI has shaped its narrative, particularly after being ousted from government last year in April, it's been, first of all, they pointed fingers at America, and then they started appeasing America, and then they said, oh no, it was not America, it was the erstwhile, it was the previous chief of army staff. And in that way, PTI has built a narrative that they somehow stand for civilian supremacy. How exactly? When Mr. Asad Umar of PTI just 2 days ago was saying on national TV that he wants to have talks with the army chief behind closed doors, and talks about what? PTI actually wants non-democratic forces to intervene in politics, whereas our army has made it very clear that they are there to do their duty, to protect the country, to protect the security of the state. They're not going to involve themselves in politics. And the PTI's whole movement is centered around involving our armed forces into politics. So, what kind of civilian leadership or civilian supremacy are they talking about? This is all an excuse to, further their nefarious designs in order to promote interests of just one man. And it's really about one man. It's very interesting that when these people entered into Qaeda Azam House in Lahore yesterday, I was listening to the protesters and PTI supporters saying that you touched Imran Khan, now you see the consequences. I mean, it's not even about PTI. It's not about Shah Mahmood Qureshi. It's not about Fawad Chaudhry. It's about Imran Khan. How dare you touch Imran Khan? Why? Is Imran Khan above the law? Have there not been previous leaders? Other political party leaders and chairmen have been sent to prison, and they've had, I mean, prove their cases. They've had to prove their side of the story in courts, and that years or months for them to be finally released from jail. And they never complained. I remember that, when Mohtara Shahid Benazir Bhutto, she lost her life, she was martyred in 2007. People Party supporters, Pakistan People's Party supporters outraged. And that was when Mr. Zardari had said Pakistan should pay. Bring unity back to nation, to bring peace and stability. Is this what you call peace and stability? I just remember that, yesterday before Mr. Khan was arrested, in his last video that he even posted on social media, he had said that, okay, fine, arrest me, but then you shall see the consequences. Now you see the cause and effect. At whose behest are these PTI supporters doing what they're doing, unleashing all their violence and terrorism on? I mean, it's not that
Right,
difficult to
absolutely.
guess.
I understand your point. Absolutely. And Farrukh, in terms of what we've seen in the reaction of the PTI leaders, it's important also to understand what sort of action or the future strategy that they keep referring to is going to be there. And I want to understand, especially now after the arrest of Asad Umar and other party leaders as well, what sort of a scenario does this put the PTI, not just in terms of the kind of actions that their workers have taken, but particularly their leaders as well, because this is something that has been spoken about before as well, about the party, that it is at the end of the day being run by an individual, and that the real power lies with the PTI chairman. Does that in a way significantly impact the party stance at the moment if Imran Khan is under arrest?
Right, Sana, and that is important. Remember, there was an allusion to Asif Zardari's Pakistan Kape when his own wife was assassinated, and half of Pakistan was actually up in flames. At that time, he actually said Pakistan is acceptable, we will stay with Pakistan. This time too, we were at least, this is fundamental human decency because lives are at stake right now. We were expecting that there is going to be some kind of statement condemning, unconditionally condemning these violent attacks, not obfuscation that Asad Umar was offering. And again, an educated man doing this is horrible. I mean, he himself comes from a military family. I knew his father well, a retired Journal of Pakistan Army, right? Used to be kind of very generous with us when we were students. You know, the way he has actually obscured, and then no condemnation, right? Even Shah Mahmood Qureshi yesterday was saying that we should not resort to violence, and yet he refused to condemn it. And today he did actually something more, because there were speculations that he might have been arrested. Then he also doubled down on the same incendiary, you know, rhetoric, and which is really sad. Now the problem is that so far what we have been, you know, let me confess to you, I've since 2018 or 17, I've actually had a soft corner for PTI, and that's why I voted for PTI in 2018 elections, right? You and I actually, even off air, had this back and forth where I would try to cut Imran Khan Saab and his party a lot of flack, and you would actually then point out that no, you know, you would actually call me out. But with all that has happened, I mean, earlier I used to attribute everything to Hanlon's razor, never attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity, or for that matter incompetence. But now I think that the right razor to explain all this is Occam's razor. You know, the simple thing is, the simplest explanation is the right one. Right from the moment when Imran Khan Sahab says that if I am put out of power, I will become more dangerous. After that, we have seen deliberate attempts, one by one, not only by him, but the entire ecosystem, to hurt the state, to hurt the society, just to prove that he has not a party but a cult, and that cult is going to go around him like Hassan bin Sabah, or the old man of the mount, used to be treated by his supporters, right? That is not acceptable in a modern state. That is not acceptable in any state where you are supposed to have laws and regulations. So regarding consequences and strategies, the first thing that I noticed today, Imran Khan Sahab, once again, the same melodrama. He's talking about his well-being, and as if he is going to be killed. I can tell you, as I said earlier, that he will not be hurt. I can say it with confidence that there is no threat, imminent threat to his life. There is no danger, even in the long run, to his life, especially from the state institutions. But I tell you what, after you have done what you have done, it is not the first party, it is not the first leader who actually went to this extent. What happens then, Sana, is that when you actually offend everybody, everybody knows how to handle you, right? Imran Khan Sahab, his punishment will not be that he is going to be put out to pasture, but he will be made irrelevant. His party, you have seen his party swell in past 12 years. Now you will see it shrink and shrivel, because the first thing that happens, Sana, and it is very easy, is to cut off the financial supply, right? Especially when there's so much shady and shoddy going on, that will be taken care of. Especially when it comes to these violent incidents, they're also the same people who are financing. So they will be identified, and this breather will be denied. Then remember, PTI actually brought together people from disputed groups who were ambitious and who were not getting that kind of space in other parties. And now they will, one by one, after facing the legal consequences, flee. So this party started from being a Tonga party. It is going to become a Tonga party again. And again, the man will be made so irrelevant, you cannot just think.
All right. Mr. Muneeb, the situation, when we take a look at what is happening with the number of cases against the PTI chairman, is also important, because there was also, of course, the hearing of the Toshakhana reference also that was conducted today. And it's important in terms of what is going on, especially with regards to the NAB case. And I want to understand that the impact this has on the various cases against the PTI chairman, and what sort of a consequence will there be if this case is proceeded with and the PTI chairman is found guilty.
Imran Khan keeps complaining about the fact that there are a lot of FIRs registered against him. There are a lot of cases going on against him. But I mean, should we be surprised? Because when you do indulge in unscrupulous activities, unsavory activities, then you have to face the music. You have to face the law. But this just shows, how much he deems himself to be immune from the general application of the law of the land. You cannot, you cannot live under such a delusion. You have to face the consequences for your own actions. And so, yes, the Toshakhana case, again, very credible evidence. What the ECP has said, ECP had even, declared that this person is no longer eligible to hold public office. At the same time, there's the non-declaration of his dependents case going on regarding Tyrion White. That case is also on. Then, of course, the prohibited funding case and the ECB's findings in that regard. And now, I think the worst that he could do to himself, there was the Al Qadir case as well, but in consequence of him being arrested under a valid, arrest warrant in relation to the Al Qadir Trust case, now, the violence that he and his PTI party members and supporters have unleashed nationwide, I think that's the last nail in the coffin when it comes to how much the state can tolerate a particular political party, and now not even a political party, I'd say that this political party has stopped it. I mean, we have stopped considering it to be mainstream anyway, because the kind of behavior that they've displayed, at least since yesterday, I think that there should be many more cases, and there will be many more cases that should follow, because you take it easily when, as I've said, the rate of the state is challenged, when you are damaging public property, when you are threatening institutions, when you are threatening public office holders who are all, by the way, democratically elected, when you are putting the whole democratic procedure, parliamentary procedure under threat. You just cannot do that on a very individual level. For example, I'm seeing that how PTI supporters are with impunity and openly issuing threats to those who have a disagreement with them, or who have a different opinion such as I. And then not only that, I'm also seeing a very serious propaganda going on against our institutions and against our government, even abroad. Just now, I've seen that Mr. Paul Fisher, who's a local councillor there in London, he is at pains to emphasize that the kind of gathering and assemblies that are being held by PTI supporters in outside Enfield House in Dunraven Street in London, that violates even UK law. I mean, this is bringing a lot of defame and a lot of bad reputation to us as Pakistanis. I mean, this is not how Pakistani diaspora is in Britain generally, but that's the impression you're giving. So I think that there are many more cases to follow. And just as Mr. Pitafi said, that I believe Imran Khan has truly removed himself from the mainstream, because if you have to be in mainstream politics, you have to play by the rules. But I believe that Mr. Khan and his party have breached every single rule that there is in the book on how to conduct politics within a democratic, civilized setup. So I think that what is going to follow is not going to do so Imran Khan, and rightly so.
All right. Farrukh, of course, as Mr. Muneeb was saying, that the reputation, of course, at stake, and the country is being extensively looked at, and this entire incident has been covered by a lot of international media. And we earlier saw that Minister Hassan Iqbal was also speaking to national media, and he spoke about the case, and he clarified the situation with regards to what the hearing is all about and the merits of the case. And it's important in terms of what has happened, especially with regards to state institutions and buildings being targeted. In terms of what the understanding is across the world as to what is really going on and what's happening with the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Do you think that the reports that are coming in from international media are accurately understanding what's going on?
Right. Then you'll have to first identify which media are we talking about. If you're going to talk about Western media, I think they employ some of the best reporters that are available in the country. So the first thing they do is they actually crystallize everything, and they inform their audiences according to the facts that they have access to, right? And miraculously, our state has been very generous in, handing out, large portions of information that is available to it, to those reporters. And that's why I don't have any problem in the way Western media will be covering it. It will be one of empathy. The other one is the Nutanki that we somehow, for the lack of any better word, call Indian media. And they have been actually, jumping with joy and they have been actually trying to present Pakistan as a dumpster fire. I mean, some of this is kind of worrying because, the institutions were attacked and it was not heartening to see all that was happening. But the kind of mutt that you see in Indian media is frankly frightening, because what kind of people would enjoy hate so much that they would actually see another person being harmed and then they would enjoy it, right? I think this fact is not lost on the Western world either. That's why Indian media, no matter whatever kind of propaganda it doles out, nobody is ready to buy it, right? Regarding how these things are presented, yeah, it was bad optics. It was a very sad day yesterday and even today that people were attacking their own institutions. But everybody who actually tries to propound these thoughts that somehow this kind of an activity can succeed actually labor under two or three illusions or delusions. One, that it is 1990s and Pakistan is somehow Soviet Union. That is not true. Number two, Pakistan is somewhere around Sudan, and these things, the way they have played out there, it might happen here. Pakistan has this incredible history when it comes to state institutions, army and armed forces, of showing discipline. Whosoever thinks that there is going to be a colonel school or brigadier school don't know the history of the country and how the institution operates, right? With that kind of a situation, anybody who thinks that Pakistan is going to fall apart don't know us. We will continue no matter what, even if it is by sheer bloody mindedness, right? This is who we are. So whatever sad things have transpired, they have. What breaks my heart, Sana, let me tell you, because I've been covering war and terror from get-go. Some 11, 12 years ago, I met a very bright young man. At that time also, because of General Musharraf's controversies, army was demoralized and it was being attacked also by the terrorists. At that time, that young man says that he was an officer, young officer, that I want to actually, the thought comes in my mind that if I had actually been born in another country and I would have rendered this kind of sacrifices, I would have been one of the greatest heroes. And here everybody keeps on demonizing me or somehow attacking me. And then that gentleman actually went and got martyred. That kind of sacrifice is going on in this country, and we keep on playing this bloody politics and demoralizing the people who are our last defense against total chaos, right?
Absolutely.
This is why I keep on saying that we have to relent and realize where we are at right now. And I hope in coming days we see the kind of recovery that we actually deserve. But these people who have actually, brought this bad name to Pakistan, they will be sorted out. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely, and as should be the case. Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Mr. Muneeb Qadir, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Of course, there's a lot that is going on in the country at the moment, but what we can hope for is that there is a better day coming and that the situation is under control. And this is what the political setup and the establishment have also promised to go ahead. And of course, we want to understand whoever is responsible for anything that is against the country and its people is meted out with the consequences that they deserve. That's all we have from the debate. See you tomorrow.